Well, let's see. I think it says that we are live. All right, we're live. How you doing, folks? My head was a buzzing, was listening to Stairway to Heaven, and the timing was perfect when the song ended. It was time to come in with the Soul Tribe. So how are you? It's Friday. Greetings, everyone. Hey, Big Al, David Castle, Susie Q, Bianca, Lori. Man, there's lots of good people here. I know David Barry said he was going to have dinner. Hey, got to eat. Hello, Susie Q, Mary Wins. How are you, my dear? Good to see you. Pamela, greetings. Gary, hello. Yeah, it is, Gary. It's one of those songs that, it's, I guess the first time when it came out was a very interesting time for me. It's amazing how you look back on those times, and even if they were rough, yet there's a certain, I don't know, there's a pull to it. There's a certain yearning for capturing that moment again, allowing the imagination to expand. And I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but this week has gone by like that. I was telling Lynn this morning, I said, my spatial perception of time, I said, honey, it's accelerating. And she looked at me and she said, it's odd that you say that. She says, when I was laying in bed, waking up, she said, I had the same odd thought. So, yeah. Consciously aware, how are you, my good friend? Gonna get you on. Yeah, Divine Empress, hello. So, I want to say something about these rods of raw. Marcia, I'll tell you what, dear. So I went to sleep, basically holding these. And the dreams, holy cow, Batman. Uh the this some strong energy right here. That's all I got to say. Wow, wow. I mean, who would have thought? And again, Marcia, thank you so much. Hello, Rod from Washington State. How are you doing? Good to see you as well. And Judy, hello. Emperor Rex, good to see you. Um, Excellent, excellent, excellent. Josh, I did just get your email, so we'll hook up, man. Good to see you, and I guess it's springtime there, eh? Hey, see how I put that in there? Hey, Twisted Is B, Robert V, hello, good to see you. Bernadette, Tim Barnes, how are you doing? Stairway to Heaven. Wow. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Okay. Reality time, right? Let me just invoke favor on everybody. I do it every day, and there's a reason for it. It works. It works. It works. It works. Hey, T-Cat. Um, it is a beautiful day in the month of May here in Colorado. It is indeed. Um, Suzanne, good to see you. Yeah. So, favor upon all of us. Nothing missing, nothing broken be in our lives. Favor follows us going in, follows us going out. Even in the midst of pandemics and calamity, we can remain calm and assured that, hey, we're going to be just as fine in the beginning, the middle, and the end. And every end has a beginning. Every beginning has an end. So, uh, as long as you're in this reality, yeah, the Orbus, yeah, think about it. Eating your tail. That's weird. Happy birthday to anyone that's having one. We're going to talk just for a minute. I've got an email from Michelle in South Africa. Ay, ay, ay. What's happening in South Africa is happening here. And I don't know if you've seen the lines. They're happening in almost all cities now. Food lines. It's really not any different from 1930, 29, 30, 31, 32, the years of the Depression. Um, I want to first of all give a acknowledgement to Loving Life 2020. He is a channel that really does focus in on what's happening there. And I want to show this video real quick. Because folks, this is what's happening in South Africa now. It's happening here in America. They had a food giveaway here where I live in Denver, and couple of hours, over 2,000 people drove through. And let me just show you this. Um, so you can see the lines, right? And this is obviously a drone footage. Folks, this is to get food, is if I understand it right. And check out his channel if you really want to know what's going on, particularly in this region of the world. Um, yeah, it's pretty stark, isn't it? And I'm just going to let this play through because the reality of this is, folks, this is happening in America. I mean, which line do you want to go? Well, let's go over to this line now. And well, so it's kind of a question, is that a beginning or is that an extension to the line? But the guy operating the drone figures this out, that the line continues. And I'm sure that, and don't quote me on this, but I think this is one of the camps. I could be wrong, maybe just a city. But so it's like this line starts and ends, in so many different ways. So thank you, Loving Life Community 2020. I believe that is the channel. I'll put a link in there. Yeah, it's Loving Life 2020. Check him out. He really does give you the news as to what is really going on here, folks. And I don't know. It's getting real. And we try to keep it positive here. And I tell you, I come into the belief that the universe is not short of anything. I don't think the earth is either. It's really what man does. This is a man-made construct. At least we think it is. I do know. I choose to think that, but again, it's like, all right, so who's the asshole that manifested all this? I mean, what were they thinking? And you go, that's why you never point your finger at anybody, because when your finger's pointed at somebody else, remember, you've got three more pointing back at you. So, you're already outvoted before you start. But it's amazing. I don't know. We're going to see how it continues to go. I'm going to get David from Adapt 2020 back on, because there's things that we need to be aware of in America. Our food chain is, the meat interruption. I'm sure PETA and vegetarians like the news, but yeah, but you don't hear about the farmers. How are they doing? And, if the farmers are having a hard time, guess what? We're eventually going to have a hard time. It's amazing how that loop comes around going, how did that happen? Bill Gates. Yeah. Yeah. It's, yes. This is a live exercise. Yeah. Yeah. Pompeo said that. Um, Unknown, says it's here in Sweden. Mm, I'm reading here, folks. Okay. Yeah. Happening in Sweden. I'm sure it's happening in other places. It's happening all over the world. And I can't help the series that I am doing on the New World Order. Remember, it's what Kissinger said. Now, he said this back in 72, that the day will come when the country that rules over the food supply will dominate the world. All right, so who's up for that? No, thank you. I'm one of these people that I hate thinking about. If I think about prophecy, we've talked about this before. Do you believe in prophecy or not? Yes or no? Um, and the quick synopsis on the debate, both the pro and the con, would be, if you believe in prophecy, then you believe that this is being run by a higher intelligence, and that higher intelligence is not akin to space-time continuum. It can remove itself from the space-time, therefore time is much like a spear. The interesting thing about a spear is that you can draw a line from any point of the center of this. I believe that that's what time is also on different dimensions. I see it. But more importantly, that supporting prophecy is that there is this intelligence, therefore they can see into the future of all possible futures and be able to see the one that manifests. Okay. The con to that is, in which the con, I take the negative side, that it doesn't exist, because if you go with the thought of prophecy, then it means no matter what you and I do, we are but playing merely a role to something that is going to be the inevitable anyway. I don't like that. That's why I don't like organized religion. It's either accept their God or you get the hell out. Well, I'm fine. I'm getting the hell out. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. And so if you're telling me the future is set, now we can have a debate in all the little minutia of how the future plays out, but still the argument is that it's already be predetermined. That was one of the debates I had in when I used to practice Christianity. How could you believe in predestination? I mean, predestination is exactly what it is. It's the destination has already been chosen. So you think about that. That mindset to a person such as, from my perspective, tells me it's a zero gain here. Nothing is being achieved. So I don't like that. I consider myself to be an individual. Now, it could be an individual of what? I don't know. But nevertheless, that's how I see it. And I'm not perfect. I'm not imperfect. I am. Excuse me. Oh, I was out in the garden earlier and man, got the dust stirred up. And I have a terrible allergy with dust. Uh, it just gets into my sinuses and oh boy, it's nuts. So anyway, yeah, Sarah Hawkins, looking at your higher self. Excuse me. I agree. Absolutely. A Sim says we have choices. I believe we do. Getting back to this thing about are you perfect or are you imperfect? What are you? I don't know. Excuse me. If you look at the concept of consequence, punishment, reward, the thing I had to ask myself was this. So, Wayne, what are you going to do when you pass over? So, you believe in this judgment thing, this white throne judgment. So, what am I being judged for? Am I being judged because I'm imperfect and I acted imperfectly in this life? If you believe the concept further, you're already contaminated. So, logic would dictate that if I am imperfect in my being created, then what am I going to be judged on? That I wasn't imperfect enough. And then if you take the other approach that you're perfect and you're being judged because of being imperfect, but wait a minute, that can't exist in the same consciousness. You can't have something that's perfect and say that it is imperfect. You know what you have in the middle of that? Oblivion. They cancel each other out. You eliminate both. So what's the deal then? Now, you look at this further and you say, well, we may not be any of that, but we are in an imperfect system. Okay, well, depending on your point of view, so you're coming into an imperfect situation. The only way that you could act in an imperfect situation is imperfectly. Perfection can't exist in imperfection. It's either one reality or it's the other. Because again, we're talking the laws of physics here. You can't put two matter antimatter in the same space. They annihilate each other. The whole concept of perfection is the same thing. So, I'm just reading some of the comments. So anyway, that's Wayne's Corner for the day and quiet thoughts for a Friday afternoon. Um, but it's really something. Write me an email or something. Let me know in the comments. It's an interesting conundrum when you think about it. Because you talk about roads of ascension. All right, let's take that theory. So, what it's saying there is that we are somehow imperfect, working our way up to perfection. And they say that that's, the 33rd dimension, 34th, blah, and on and on. Maybe. Again, you're taking two different states and you're trying to convert them, and I don't know how that can be done. Matter and antimatter, Christ, antichrist, progenitor, antithesis. The only reason why either one exists is because the other exist. Well, spent 20 minutes on this one. Let's see, Josh, what'd you write? The only thing that could possibly be perfect in the combination of all things within existence. Think about it. To me, it's a conundrum in one matter. And here we're completely getting off, but it's Friday. You know, we'll read more about Mr. Tesla, which the guy is amazing. You know, I'm beginning to see what he is seeing. You think about, and I've come up with an idea. Not going to share it with anyone, but if you're an electrical engineer and willing to sign an NDA, I have an idea that I'd like to get drawn out. And yeah, and this is the kind of stuff. Now, maybe it's these rods of raw. I don't know. I mean, these are some powerful things as I'm sitting here holding them. David says, no duality when all is oneness. One is the loneliest number. That's true. But isn't it interesting that one can exist without the zero? Is one the beginning or is one the end? You got a Tesla generator. The thing really, yep. So anyway, it's things that I know that people struggle with this whole religious thing about after death judgment, and that's the whole angels, devils thing. But that's really a question you have to ask yourself. Well, all right. So again, I feel like Captain Kirk. What does God need a spaceship? Let's say can't see the light until you're in the dark. Yeah, and then dark truth. It's an oxymoron because there is really no such thing as darkness. You could say, well, darkness is the absolute of light. Well, there's another deep thought, because in essence, darkness seems to be the natural state of all things. It's light that's the intruder. Anyway, maybe we don't need them spaceships. I agree with you. Now, that's funny. Next t-shirt, favor is a frequency. Yes, I got to get one of those made. We got to get one of those, and so we can do that. Synthetic telepathy. Yep. And we're still onto this. The thing about why we're just diverting to Tesla, because I think Tesla was onto this. He was speaking to something. We're going to find out as we continue to read. He was in communication with an intelligence. Obviously, it was a higher intelligence. I mean, it was interactive. That's pretty cool. So, yeah. Oh, Deb, it's one in our community. It's Marsha Price, and poor girl's probably getting overwhelmed, but I'm telling you, these are fabulous. She fills these with crystals, and she uses only the pure zinc and the copper, and yeah, it's amazing what it does. I mean, I had such some vivid dreams last night. Hey, Twisted Isby. Got things happening around me right now. Hey, listen, take care of what you got to do. Is it Quayon? QAnon, legit. It's odd that you mentioned that. I have a piece that we're going to do so you can figure it out, make your decision. I can't render an opinion one way or the other. I haven't heard anything about him, haven't never listened, haven't even read anything that he has written. So I don't know. Fire in water or one in the spirit world. Well, Suzanne, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I know this for playback. You have to read the chat room. Let's see. Is she on the Crystal Network yet? I don't know. I know Karen was talking to her about Marcia to get her work. You know, she's a nurse like my wife, and she does this as a labor of love. All right, got enough of me talking. Let's move on. Excuse me. All right, I want to thank Bob for sending this. This is the lost journals of Tesla. Haven't gone through it, you know, other than just beginning to look at it cursory. But I did like this. He wrote, "We are whirling through endless space with an inconceivable speed." They say that we can measure that now. "All around us, everything is spinning, everything is moving. Everywhere there is energy. There must be some kind of availing ourselves of this energy more directly. Then, with the light obtained from the medium, with the power derived from it, with every form of energy obtained without effort, from the store forever exhaustible, humanity will advance with giant strides. The mere contemplation of these magnificent possibilities expands our minds, strengthens our hopes, and fills our heart with supreme delight." Nikola Tesla, 1891. He was a rather dapper looking chap, wasn't he? Someone was talking about, you know, I asked yesterday, and just in passing conversation that I was thinking out loud, "Oh, well, I wonder when he started dating." Well, apparently never did. He was all about energy. Someone wrote, maybe he was aware of a sexual energy. Who know? I mean, but you got to admit the dude's, you know, intense. I like this. There must be some way of availing ourselves of this energy more directly. Then, with the light obtained from the medium. The guy was on to something, I'm telling you. Yeah. Let's just pick up here. I mean, I've read this ahead, and many of you that have gotten the PDFs as well probably can read along. But wow, this dude, you know, just reading about him helps all of us, I think, expand our awareness as well. Um, he writes, "For a time I wavered, impressed by my professor's authority, but soon became convinced I was right and understood the task with all the fire and boundless confidence of youth." This is where we left off yesterday. "I started by first picturing in my mind a direct current machine, running it and following the changing flow of the currents in the armature. Then I would imagine an alternator and investigate the progress taking place in a similar manner." And we all can see this now. I mean, I took mechanical drawing in school. Um, you know, many of you probably have similar experience. Next, I would visualize systems comprising of motors and generators and operate them in various ways. So this guy was seeing it in his head. Yeah, many of you know what that's like. Excuse me. The images I saw were to me perfectly real and tangible. Says something. All my remaining term at Gratz was passed in intense but fruitless effort of this kind, and I almost came to the conclusion that the problem was insolvable. In 1880, I went to Prague, Bohemia, carrying out my father's wish to complete my education at the university there. It was in that city that I made a decided advance, which consisted of detaching the commuter from the machine and studying the phenomenon in this new aspect, but still without result. In the year following, there was a sudden change in my views of life. I realized that my parents had been making too great sacrifices on my account and resolved to relieve them of the burden. The wave of the American telephone had just reached the European continent, and the system was to be installed in Budapest, Hungary. It appeared an ideal opportunity, all the more as a friend of the family was at the head of the enterprise. Isn't that so true? I tell you, years of corporate life, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if your network is strong, then yeah, yeah. Back in the day, and I'm dating myself on this, but we had what we called the golden Rolodex. And I really miss them. I mean, yeah, it's all done the digital, but there was something tangible about having that Rolodex on my desk. Um, yeah, you remembered phone numbers too, by the way, much better. Uh, It was here that I suffered the complete breakdown of the nerves to which I have referred, a nervous breakdown. So, how many brilliant minds suffer in this area that they do have mental breakdowns? It shows you what pressure can do just simply by thought. What I experienced during the period of that illness surpasses all belief. My sight and hearing were always extraordinary. I could clearly discern objects in the distant when others saw no trace of them. Several times in my boyhood, I saved the houses of our neighbors from fire by hearing the faint crackling sounds which did not disturb their sleep and calling for help. In 1899, when I was past 40, carrying on my experiments in Colorado, I could hear very distinctly thunderclaps at a distance of 550 miles. Wow. The limit of audition for my young assistants was scarcely more than 150 miles. My ears was thus over 13 times more sensitive. Yet at that time, I was, so to speak, stone deaf in comparison with the acuteness of my hearing while under the nervous strain. Now, in this case, where he's talking about in Colorado is in between, it's closer to Colorado Springs. And it's very weird. Know the house he's talking about. Anyway, in Budapest, I could hear the ticking of a watch with 3 rooms between me and the timepiece. That would be deafening when you think about it. A fly alighting on a table in a room would cause a dull thud in my ear. A carriage passing at a distance of a few miles fairly shook my whole body. The whistle of a locomotive 20 or 30 miles away made the bench or chair in which I sat vibrate so strongly that the pain was unbearable. What's going on here, folks? The ground under my feet trembled continuously. I had to support my bed on rubber cushions to get any rest at all. The roaring noise from near and far often produced the effect of spoken words which would have frightened me had I not been able to resolve them into their accumulated components. Wow. The sun rays, when periodically intercepted, would cause blows of such force on my brain that they would stun me. I had to summon all my willpower to pass under a bridge or other structure, as I experienced a crushing pressure on the skull. In the dark, I had the sense of a bat and could detect the presence of an object at a distance of 12 feet by any peculiar creepy sensation on the forehead. My pulse varied from a few to 260 beats, and all the tissues of the body with twitching and tremors, which was perhaps the hardest to bear. I'm thinking on something. A renowned physician who gave me daily doses of bromide of potassium pronounced my malady unique and incurable. It is my eternal regret that I was not under the observation of experts in physiology and psychology at that time. I clung desperately to life, but never expected to recover. Can anyone believe that so hopeless a physical wreck could ever be transformed into a man of astonishing strength and tenacity, able to work 38 years almost without a day's interruption, and find himself still strong and fresh in body and mind? Such is my case. A powerful desire to live and to continue the work, and the assistance of a devoted friend, an athlete, accomplished the wonder. My health returned, and with it, the vigor of mind. In attacking the problem again, I almost regretted that the struggle was soon to end. I had so much energy to spare. When I understood the task, it was not with a resolve such as men often make. With me, it was a sacred vow, a question of life and death. I knew that I would perish if I failed. Now I felt that the battle was won. Back in the deep recesses of the brain was the solution, but I could not yet give it outward expression. One afternoon, which is ever present in my recollection, I was enjoying a walk with my friend in Central Park and reciting poetry. At that age, I knew entire books by heart, word for word. One of these was Goethe's Faust. The sun was just setting and reminded me of the glorious passage. And I'm not going to read the German. I would butcher that more than my ancestry would allow. As I uttered these inspiring words, the idea came like a flash of lightning, and in an instant the truth was revealed. I drew with a stick in the sand the diagram sham of 6 years later in my address before the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, and my companion understood them perfectly. The images I saw were wonderfully, it says sham and clear, and had the solidarity of metal and stone. So much so that I told him, see my motor here. Watch me reverse it. I cannot begin to describe my emotions. Fucking seeing his statue come to life could not have been more deeply moved. I'm thinking of Pinocchio as well. A thousand secrets of nature, which I might have stumbled upon accidentally, I would have given for that one which I had wrestled from her against all odds and at the peril of my existence. That's tenacity, folks. Solid tenacity. Chapter 4. For a while, I gave myself up entirely to the intense enjoyment of picturing machines and devising new forms. It was a mental state of happiness about as complete as I have ever known in life. Ideas came in an uninterrupted stream, and the only difficulty I had was to hold them fast. The pieces of apparatus I conceived were to me absolutely real and tangible in every detail, even to the minutest marks and the signs of wear. Wow. You know how strong a mind has to be in focusing and actually being able to manufacture these in your mind. It was inevitable that they would eventually have been manifested anyway. I delighted in imaging the motors constantly running, for in this way they presented to the mind's eye a more fascinating sight. When natural inclination develops into a passionate desire, one advances towards his goal in 7-league boots. There's a term for you. In less than 2 months, I evolved virtually all the types of motors and modifications of the system which are now identified with my name and which are used under many other names all over the world. It was perhaps provincial that the necessities of existence commanded a temporary halt in this consuming activity of the mind. Employment experience in Europe. I came to Budapest promoted by a premature report concerning the telephone enterprise, and as irony of fate willed it, I had to accept a position as draftsman in the Central Telegraph Office of the Hungarian government at a salary, which I deemed it my privilege not to disclose. Fortunately, I soon won the interest of the inspector in chief and was therefore employed on calculations, designs, and estimates in connections with new installations until the telephone exchange was started. When I took charge of the same, the knowledge and practical experience I gained in the course of this work was most valuable, and the employment gave me many opportunities for the exercise of my invented faculties. I made several improvements in the central station apparatus and perfected a telephone repeater or amplifier, which was never patented or publicly described, but would be credible to me even today. In recognition of my efficient assistance, the organization of the undertaking, Mr. Pascus, upon disposing of his business in Budapest, offered me a position in Paris, which I gladly accepted. I never can forget the deep impression that magic city produced on my mind. For several days after my arrival, I roamed through the streets in utter bewilderment of the new spectacle. The attractions were many and irresistible, but alas, the income was spent as soon as received. When Mr. Fawcus asked me how I was getting along in the new sphere, I described the situation accurately in the statement that the last 29 days of the months are the toughest. I led a rather strenuous life in what would now be termed Rooseveltian fashion. I have no idea what that means. Every morning, regardless of the weather, I would go from the Boulevard Saint Marcel, where I resided, to a bathing house on the Seine, plunged into the water, looped the circuit 27 times, and then walked an hour to reach Ivry, where the company's factory was located. There, I would have a woodchopper's breakfast, a 7:30. I don't know what that means either. Some terms we're going to need to look up here. Um, and then eagerly awaited the lunch hour. In the meantime, cracking hard nuts for the manager of the works, Mr. Charles Batchelor, who was an intimate friend and assistant to Edison. Okay. Here, I was thrown in contact with a few Americans who fairly fell in love with me because of my proficiency in billiards. To these men, I explained my invention, and one of them, Mr. D. Cunningham, foreman of the mechanical department, offered to form a stock company. The proposal seemed to me comical in the extreme. I did not have the faintest conception of what that meant, except that it was an American way of doing things. Tesla. Okay, nothing came of it. However, and during the next few months, I had to travel from one place to another in France and Germany to cure the ills of the power plants. In modern day terms, what Mr. Cunningham was offering him was this: I'm an investor. We're going to start a company. And for your inventions, we can actually raise capital. He figured it out eventually, but that wasn't his modus operandi. Strasbourg, Elise Lorraine, Automatic Electrical Regulators, 1883. On my return to Paris, I submitted to one of the administrators of the company, a Mr. Raoult, a plan for improving their dynamos and was given an opportunity. Ooh, I love that. Dynamos. Yeah. It's Greek, power. Anyway, um, my success was complete, and the delighted directors accorded me the privilege of developing automatic regulators, which were much desired. Shortly after, there was some trouble with the lightning plant, which had been installed at the new railroad station in Strasbourg. The wiring was defective, and on occasion of the opening ceremonies, a large part of the wall was, was blown out through a short circuit right in the presence of the old Emperor William I. Yeah, I bet that didn't go over well. The German government refused to take the plant, and the French company was facing a serious loss. On account of my knowledge of the German language and past experience, I was entrusted with the difficult task of straightening out matters, and early in 1883, I went to Strasbourg on this mission. I mean, this guy lived a life that, Samuel Clemens could have wrote a whole new series of stuff. This is amazing. So I can only imagine. Can you imagine today if something like that happened? Some of the incidents in that city have left an indelible record of my memory. By a curious coincidence, a number of the men who subsequently achieved fame lived there about that time. In later life, I used to say they there were bacteria of greatness in that old town. What a term. There was bacteria of greatness. Wow. I like that term. Somehow I got this picture running of Mr. Smith and Morpheus talking, when they had in the Matrix. Anyway, I digress. The practical work, correspondence, and conferences with officials kept me preoccupied day and night. But as soon as I was able to manage, I undertook the construction of a simple motor in the mechanical shop opposite the railroad station, having brought with me from Paris some material for that purpose. The consummation of the experiment was, however, delayed until the summer of that year, when I finally had the satisfaction of seeing the rotation effected by alternating currents of a different phase, and without sliding contracts or commutator, computer, commutor, as had conceived for years before. It was an exquisite pleasure, but not to compare with the delirium of joy following the first revelation. God, this guy's mind. I don't know many people who, in their vernacular, day by day, use the term delirium of joy, exquisite pleasure. Yeah, those are terms you just don't hear. Among my new friends was the former mayor of the city, Mr. Suzanne, whom I had already in measure acquainted with this and other inventions of mine, and whose support I endeavored to enlist. He was sincerely devoted to me and put my project before several wealthy persons. So he had a benefactor. I mean, what I can say about Tesla is that he is the consummate entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs always are taken advantage of. I know. And, unless you have deep pockets for lawyers and what have you, it sucks. Anyway, I really get what's going on here. So we would term it today, Tesla had an angel investor. Man, there have been a couple in my professional career that you owe a debt of gratitude. You get an angel investor and one that's well connected. Yeah, cool. He wanted to help me, and as he goes on in every way, and approach of the 1st of July, 1917, happens to remind me of a form of assistance I received from that charming man, which was not financial, but nonetheless appreciated. In 1870, when the Germans invaded the country, Mr. Suzanne had buried a good size allotment in St. Esfith, I think, in 1801, and he came to the conclusion that he knew no worthier person than myself to consume that precious beverage. This, I may say, is one of the unforgettable incidents to which I have referred. My friend urged me to return to Paris as soon as possible and seek support there. This I was anxious to do, but my work and negotiations were protracted, owing to all sorts of petty obstacles I encountered, so that at times the situation seemed hopeless. Just to give an idea of German thoroughness and efficiency, I may mention here a rather funny experience. An incandescent lamp of 16 centimeter, I don't know, was to be placed in a hall. And upon selecting the proper location, I ordered the monitor to run the wires. After working for a while, he concluded that the engineer had to be consulted, and this was done. The latter made several objections, but ultimately agreed that the lamp should be placed 2 inches from the spot I had assigned. I've known people like that. Whereupon the work proceeded. Then the engineer became worried and told me that Inspector Odvecht should be notified. That important person was called. He investigated, debated, and decided that the lamp should be shifted back 2 inches, which was the place I had marked. It was not long, however, before Adverdick got cold feet himself and advised me that he had informed Uber Inspector Herr Ronimus of the matter and that I should await his decision. It was several days before the Uber inspector was able to free himself of other pressing duties, no doubt, but at last he arrived and a 2-hour debate followed when he decided to move the lamp 2 inches further. My hopes that this was the final act was shattered when the Uber inspector returned to me and said, what is that? I have no idea. It looks like Rig Rug Rosh Funk is so particular that I would not dare to give an order for placing this lamp without his explicit approval. Ay, 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 ay. Accordingly, arrangements for a visit from the great man were made. We started cleaning up, polishing early in the morning, and when Funk, we'll just call him Funk, came with his routine, he was ceremoniously received. After 2 hours of deliberation, he suddenly explained, I must be going, and pointed to a place on the ceiling. He ordered me to put the lamp there. It was the exact spot which I had originally chosen. So it went day after day with variations. But I was determined to achieve, at whatever cost, probably his sanity too, and in the end, my efforts were rewarded. We'll break off there. I tell you, I love this guy. I really do. He is one cool dude. And it's fun. I'm learning, I'm finding out that this man is a brilliant man. I mean, and his experiences as an entrepreneur, challenges within projects. For myself, I can relate to that. Many of you probably can as well. Um, and the insanity of what he just described is what our government is today. Nothing in our government makes sense because no one wants to take the responsibility. It has, and as a result, nothing gets done. Oh, that's kind of you, Darth. All right, folks, it's Friday. Go out and relax, man. Enjoy the days. We'll pick up on this. So Tesla is the Christ. John Price, that's an interesting thing. He was raised Christian, and it influenced him. It did. And even in later in life, which is all right. I can dig that. Well, thank you, Big Al. How's the road? Where are you? You past Phoenix now? Did you see Trina while you were passing through? Got 40 questions for you, Al. There you go. Well, yes, thank you, all of you. Listen, I know that this isn't like the most, seeing the funny pictures in the sky and what have you, but to me, this is more valuable than all of that. I'm learning from this man. And I don't know about you, but when I start reading about a character, particularly an autobiography, I can really almost get inside the guy's head. Like, of course, no one can completely, but you identify parts of it and he becomes real. See, yeah, I think Agape Light. I was just reading. That's very interesting. But hey, I'll tell you, reading the book about Tesla, I have this idea that he said this, as we'll find out. The energy is everywhere. It's everywhere. We walk through it. Our objects are placed in it. And this energy is never ending. And you could take it from there and begin to see how Westinghouse, how, there's just a number, General Electric, a number of these companies stole his ideas and they made billions, if not trillions off it. But the thing I found about Tesla was that he got to that point in his life where it wasn't about the money. It was about helping people. And when I see those long lines of people standing for food, thinking that there's the technology out there, folks, I've seen it in my head. You could literally carry this with you. And no matter where you go, you would have the ability to pick up on the electromagnetic field along with the radiational energy around. It's everywhere. You could literally convert it to alternate current and have any device. It's there. Anyway, all right. I'll let y'all go. Have fun. I'll see you on Monday for sure, if not sooner. If you want the book, it's fascinating. I hope to hear that many of you can come up with ideas. Who knows? We'll be, you never know what could happen. We could do all sorts of stuff. This is exciting times. By the way, do you know that more wealthy people, more millionaires have been made out of recessions and depressions than in the times of boom? Just something to think about. Convert energy into plants and consume. B3, that's a very interesting idea. Thank you, Pamela. Folks, I could, listen, money, there's nothing wrong with having money. And the thing about it is, there are those who look for the cutting edges. And I think Tesla left us a code. I think reading this out loud can actually activate those codes. Why? Because he said, think of the universe about frequency, vibration, it's harmonics. Anyway. Is this, Deb? This is a fascinating series. I'm going to keep with it. Listen, I don't care about the views. The ones who watch it is really what's important. This is good stuff. And I'm telling you, it's energizing. I was telling Lynn, and maybe it's these rods of raw all at the same time. This is Tesla. He realized it. Technology, the same thing. I mean, this is an apparatus. Think about it. It generates electrical signal, voltage. So, yeah. Whew. Well, you get excited about it. And you can see on my whiteboard, I mean, I'm already getting the ideas. And you know what? I'll probably keep on inventing until, I'm 90 or better. Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate it, everyone. All right, I've kept you long enough. I'll see you later. Thank you all. Bye-bye.